Morning, everyone. We're just letting folks kind of join in. We're still a couple minutes early here, so thanks for coming on early. Good morning, everyone who's joined thus far. It's just hit the top of the hour, so I'm going to give a couple minutes for folks to come in, and we'll start shortly. Thank you for joining us this morning. Good morning, everyone. We're just folks are still signing in, so we'll wait a couple of minutes here, then we'll get started. Okay, the bell ringing is slowed down, so why don't we get started here. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Lomax. I'm the project manager for the CIRM Alpha Clinics Network, and we're holding a webinar this morning. The process will be the following. I'll do a introductory slide presentation that gives a brief background on the network and then an overview of the RFA. And then we'll have time for questions and answers. If you would like to, ask questions. I'm joined by a number of CIRM team members here, including Gil Sembrano, who runs our review team. Jennifer Lewis is our expert in terms of budgets, and I know there's been some questions around budgets. And Dr. Maria Milan, our CEO and president, is also here, so we have a lively group. So I'm going to start by, again, going through a brief slide presentation. It should take about 10 minutes, and then we'll go from there. So CIRM's mission is accelerating world-class science to deliver transformative regenerative medicine treatments in an equitable manner to diverse California and the world. And our clinical trial network, the Alpha Clinics, are the point where patients and treatments come together. So it's really vital to our mission to have a clinical research platform. The network, this is the second, or actually the third round of funding for the network. The first round was finished in about 2015, and some of the achievements to date, CIRM has invested $40 million in the network. The result has been over 105 clinical trials since 2015. And a majority of the trials in the network are from industry sponsors. 82 are from either industry or academic sponsors, and the remainder, about 23, have been CIRM-funded clinical trials. So as you can see, a lot of the activity in the network are programs that are coming in outside of the CIRM clinical trial funding stream. 15 trials are open at multiple network sites. The contracts from the outside sponsors have totaled actually about 100 million as of today. 95 million is a little bit of an old figure. And in addition, the sites at UC Davis, at UC San Francisco have trained 11 MD fellows. The second round of funding, which was in 2017, included a training program. And so that's why UC Davis and UC San Francisco, which were sites that came into the program later, are the only ones with MD fellows at this time. There are, and this deck will be available on our website after the presentation. There are a number of publications that have been put forward by the network describing some of the activities in terms of both patient treatments, accelerating activities, nursing and training. So encourage folks to take a look at these publications as they describe not only the activities that have occurred in the network, but some of the underlying thinking in terms of their importance to regenerative medicine and the field as a whole. So with that very quick background of the history of the network, echo's gone, thank you. So I want to turn now to the Alpha Clinics Network concept proposal and basically the RFA. This is the heading of this slide's a bit dated. We've put forward an $80 million program that's open to California medical centers. We will fund $8 million. The awards will be capped at $8 million for a period of 5 years. Under Proposition 14, priority is given to applicants that will offer matching funds or in-kind support. And what we are asking of the sites is to put forward proposals that include a combination of both required and unique offerings. So turning to the figure on the right, I will kind of walk through at a high level and then give a bit more detail in the following slides. So in terms of eligibility, sites need to have demonstrated capacity to deliver stem cell and gene therapy clinical trials. And in terms of what that means, if you were to look at the CIRM CLIN2 clinical trial program awards, these are the types of treatments that we would, this is the definition of the treatments in those awards, or how we would determine eligibility. So those are the types of clinical trials we're referring to. So then moving after you've demonstrated capacity to deliver trials, and then all applicants need to put forward a proposal for regenerative medicine training. And we'll discuss that in a bit more detail in the next following slides. And then each site is being asked to propose lead offerings that would be available to network partners. And these lead offerings, again, go into more detail in the subsequent slides. And finally, the application should also be responsive to patient access, data sharing, and our diversity, equity, and inclusion requirements, which are described in the RFP. So historically, what the awards have funded are teams at clinical trial sites at the medical centers. These teams are supporting the unique aspects of regenerative medicine clinical trials. For example, the teams are supporting apheresis, patient treatment. There's historically awards have supported the laboratory processing, the biospecimen management, and the pharmacy aspects of clinical trials. Regulatory support has also been historically an aspect of these awards that have been very important. And clinical research coordination. Clinical research coordinators are really vital to the successful completion of these trials. And again, the sites have served as training platform for really all the activities above. So in terms of training, we've left it quite flexible. What we're looking for are training programs that can address the various aspects of stem cell and gene therapy clinical research, including nursing, physician training, research coordination, or bringing new research coordinators into the fold to be able to manage these trials, stem cell pharmacy, and also patient navigation and the various aspects of helping patients through their treatment journey. So those are, again, also itemized. These particular aspects are itemized in the RFA as well. Again, flexible and really looking for sites to propose things where they see their strength, where you feel you have particular strengths. It could be any combination of these, or you may choose to focus in one or two areas. That's up to the applicant. In terms of lead offerings, again, fairly broad, but what we're really looking for here are highly innovative proposals that will advance the field of regenerative medicine. This includes research platforms that could address critical needs in the field. For example, genomic services that enhance precision medicine and patient-centered care, the development of tools to deliver treatments in clinical trials, data analysis, different types of services. So anything critical to the research itself, advanced therapy development. These can include platforms for accelerating the delivery of cell and gene therapy treatments. And we've included a section around access and inclusivity. It's been a very strong commitment from CIRM to develop platforms and systems that bring patients into trials, bring patient diversity to trials, and really assist those patients or help navigate those patients who historically may have been underserved in clinical research to bring the diversity to our clinical portfolio. The RFA, we're very much encouraging partnering and teaming amongst the different applicants. We've included contacts. We've shared contact information among the various sites, and really looking there ways. We're looking for ways in which you can, develop synergies and build out the previous slide indicating, sort of accelerating and expansion activities. If there are ways you can really build those between sites, we're really interested in hearing about those types of collaborations. Historically, we have numerous examples already in the network where sites are collaborating to treat patients, and we know those types of collaborations are going to be vital to the success of cell and gene therapies moving forward. There's a section about organizational integration plans, and what we're asking for there is to really explain how the types of capacities which you propose developing in the context of this award will become integral to the operations at your center on an ongoing basis. And we want to really emphasize that these would be living plans based on experience and iteration over time. So we view these as living documents that would develop over time, but the primary aim is to ensure that the CIRM investment is there for the future of the field of regenerative medicine. So I just want to point to a couple of resources and things that are available to the applicants and things we're also maintaining. If you go to the awards page, you've all by now taken a look at the RFA. We have a FAQ document which we are updating periodically depending on, as questions come in. And there is a set of tips from our review team on how to present graphics and different materials in your application. We've had a number of questions about, how to present, how the application form works. So we're trying to keep that up to date as questions come in or assistance is needed. I just wanted to touch on a couple of questions that came in from the FAQ that I thought might be helpful to touch on this morning. One of the questions was around, knowledge sharing, what is the expectation? And one of our response there was that you should have the capacity to capture information that's really vital to either evaluating or replicating your core competencies, your training programs, or your lead offering. So it's objective information that would allow, let's say in this case, a sponsor that was considering opening a trial at the clinic. You have a unique offering, that there's really an objective set of data which can be drawn on to say, yes, this is, there's a high value here, so we're going to come to your clinic. In terms of, there was additionally some questions around, data sharing. At the moment, there isn't a defined data sharing requirement, particularly for this infrastructure program, but what we are asking you to do is to describe your experience and capability supporting data sharing or reporting to various, registries, repositories, or other platforms that, optimally are consistent with the FAIR principles. And many of you are already, I think every site is involved in certain other networks or other disease networks, and this, so it just sort of indicating your ability and your capacities to do reporting in the context of those types of programs would be, very responsive to what we're asking for there. And then the the sharing plan really is something that, again, we're looking at that as CIRM in the CIRM clinical trial awards, there's also going to be data sharing requirements. Again, they're being developed. They will evolve over time. So again, what the role the clinic could play is to really be aware of those requirements over time and have a willingness to either facilitate data sharing consistent with CIRM requirements, or develop processes to help sponsors comply with CIRM data sharing requirements. The point being that this is a work in progress, so it's sort of expressing a willingness to work with us over time to implement some of those data sharing requirements. A couple of reminders. We've had a few questions from folks that were interested in whether they could use funds to expand certain facilities. And just so everyone's very clear, there's this award does not allow for the purchase of capital equipment. So just a reminder of that the definition there, or the threshold is $5,000 on equipment purchases. So, and again, that's spelled out pretty clearly in the RFA. So again, just some suggestions or things to think about in terms of an alpha clinic program in relation to other CIRM programs is that there's a lot of value to creating linkages between CIRM's CLIN1, which is preclinical development programs, and CLIN2, the clinical trial programs. So to the extent you have personnel and that are capable of, say, working either with your internal with either internal programs that are applying to CIRM, or external sponsors having familiarity with those applications, and then working collaboratively with the applicant is something of high value, and it will allow you to sort of construct budgets in a way where the clinic can optimally support those programs. Again, we're really looking to for applicants to propose novel core competencies that address technical aspects of cell gene therapy delivery. So to emphasize, we've historically supported sort of clinical operations. We're really looking in this round of funding to go beyond simply supporting clinical trials to really proposing some of these expansion and value-added activities that were alluded to earlier. With that said, really would like you to be leveraging your existing capacities. So this should, all of the sites in California have existing capacities. Play to your strength and consider how you can really leverage those to support the aims and objectives of the RFA. One of the kind of as a for example, one of the areas that we know will be supporting are the sort of rare and ultra rare diseases. So, and there's always been a challenge of both getting patients into trials, maintaining patients in trials. So, focused and innovative solutions to the challenges of those trials are an area that is of interest. And finally, again, feel free, we've had a number of discussions with potential applicants. Feel free to contact us if you have questions, or either about the RFA or would like to sort of share some of your thinking, and we can react to that. So with that said, I'd like to offer folks a chance to ask questions. If you could use the hand raise button, that would be terrific. Then we can recognize you and we'll go from there. And Qing, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. So I'm working at CIRM, helping to put together this proposal. Just from the recent RFA, it doesn't have the language about program managers' roles. I'm just wondering, is that still a requirement? And if yes, what percentage of a project manager should be dedicated to this project?
Well, typically the program manager has played a central role to managing the overall operation. And
Right.
so it's interesting. So there wasn't a specific, because previously it was a full-time position. I mean, it's historically been a full-time role. So it would be, seems, we may have been non-specific in the application, but I think realistically, having that core team that's really managing the overall program is essential, just in terms of the meetings, the logistics, all the various aspects involved in the networking side of this program. It's
Right.
hard to imagine, anything less than almost full-time.
Okay, that's great to know. Yeah, it's just unclear in the application. So while we were doing the budgeting, we were wondering. So that's good to know. Thank you so much.
I'm not seeing any hands. Are there any additional comments, questions? Was that another question or the hand?
Yeah, that's another question. I do have
Sorry.
another question if nobody's asking. So in the initial summary, it mentioned that we should at least list 2 clinical trials that's going to occur or ongoing that fits the CIRM, regenerative medicine clinical studies. But where exactly in the application, which section should we put that in? Basically just show the capacity that, we have the capacity to do these clinical trials. It's not, I'm sorry, this seems to be a very specific question.
No, that's quite all right. That's exactly why we do these types. And if other people probably have the same question, so thank you for asking. I believe there is a table that we put together, but I'm going to turn to my colleague Gil Semprano and just get the. I'm getting. I'm fairly certain Gil is looking. There was a table, a template that allows you to, and it itemizes just key characteristics of the trial. And
I see.
But I will, if I'm mistaken or not otherwise misleading, I will send a message around and we'll address that. But
yeah, that'd be great, because I don't see a table in that, if you go to the grant management site, because each section is basically just a box, and right, and it listed how many characters you can put it in each box. But if I missed the table, I'll look at it again. Thanks.
stand by for 1 second. We're just doing a bit of back checking here. Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat. Yes, we will post these slides. That was a question that came in over chat. And I am not seeing additional questions at this time. So. Give people a couple of minutes to digest, and then I see Steve Peckman, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jeff. In terms of the training component, how does CIRM see the training component of the Alpha Stem Cell Clinic interfacing with other CIRM training programs, such as the overall graduate student, postdoc, clinical fellow training grant, Bridges grants, et cetera. Do you see those as being connected and related or separate?
In this particular RFA, it's clearly very much focused on clinical research training. So this RFA is unique in the sense that that's the training component. This is the program that provides for those needs around clinical research. Now, to the extent that you can identify opportunities for interaction between other training programs and clinical research training as proposed in this in your application, that's terrific, because it's the whole spirit of our training programs are to sort of build the field sort of soup to nuts. So interaction is probably desirable and a positive thing, but funds for this award should be specifically dedicated to those training aspects that are most important for clinical research, as opposed to a number of the other programs which you identified, which really address other aspects of training in the field. And I don't know if any of my other colleagues would, a number of my colleagues that deal with those programs are on the call. So if anyone has anything to add, I would welcome comments at this time.
So I can, Jeff, address the question related to where to put the clinical trials. So there is a section called Organizational Experience, Capacity, and Resources that includes a sample table. In there, I think the expectation is to include the list of trials that you have conducted in the past or that you anticipate. So you should list at least 2 that would qualify under a CLIN 2 or CLIN 3 that would then determine eligibility for the program. So that's basically where you place it.
Thank you, Gil. And that's consistent. Someone also included a comment to that regard as well. So thanks for that. So that's where the trials go. Anyone else? Any other? We can not seeing additional questions. I will. We will. Susie.
Yes, hi. I just had a quick question. I noticed there are a couple places in the application that seem to ask fairly similar questions. For example, in the section for adding value for stem cell and gene therapy trials, you ask how the Alpha Clinic will support regenerative medicine training. And then later in a project plan, you ask the same question is being asked. It's asking, let me find that, how the clinic will deliver training and career development opportunities for individuals seeking to support or perform regenerative medicine clinical trials. Are those fundamentally different questions, or are they similar and I'm just answering them slightly different ways? I wasn't really entirely sure.
Sometimes we do. We may sort of allude to the same question more than once in an app. That's known to happen. Without sort of going back and double checking the application, it's hard to answer in terms of no, we're asking for something different. So my default response at the moment would be they're probably a similar in terms of what they're asking, but we'll have to get back into the FAQ if there was some very fine distinction there that I'm just not remembering off the top of my head.
Okay, sure. I just want to be sure I'm addressing the right things in each section. I just wasn't sure if there was anything different about it. And one was more a summary, of a longer section.
That could be the case. Sometimes it's just sort of high level summary and then expand in a bit more detail. One section you may want to be a bit more expansive, but again, without going back and looking at the application itself, I'm speculating.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, well, I'll just make a few additional comments. If anyone else has questions, feel free to raise your hands. We, again, will use the FAQ document to continue to provide responses to specific questions that have come in. And if anything clarifying from this webinar, the recording of the webinar and the slides will be available on our on the page for the RFA. So again, consider that home base in terms of any updates or information that's come in. And with that, I will again just have one last call for questions. Otherwise, we've got an extra bit of time to give back to everyone today. All right, well, thank you, Steve. As you know, you can always reach out to us. You've got our email. And so again, if questions come up, feel free to contact us. Otherwise, seeing no additional questions, we'll conclude the webinar for this morning.